And the other item related to accessibility is the addition of a ramp to get people up to the altar platform itself. Certainly trying to make sure that all of our people with mobility impairments are fully welcome and part of the Mass as well. So that's included in our recommendations as well. And that, plus a lot of the repetitive items on the list from the other facilities we've already reviewed, brings us to an estimated cost of $495,000. St. Peter Chapel. This also has the lack of accessibility to the altar platform itself, so we're recommending to add that. This facility does not have air conditioning, so we're recommending to add air conditioning to the facility. Other than that, it's got all of the same issues with accessibility, with the toilet rooms not meeting requirements, adding fire alarm systems, and repairing masonry, so on and so forth. With all of those changes, that brings the construction costs to $173,000. St. Peter Hall. Again, waterproofing foundations, but this building has a rather odd underground room that's out underneath the paved area that is in particularly bad shape. All the mortar is virtually missing from between the concrete blocks, and the concrete cap that's over top of it, the rebars are rusted through, some of them, and the rest of them look like they could go at any minute. So we're just recommending that room be removed. We just call it here the underground water line room because that seemed to be where the water line was coming into the building. So that's some recommendation that we made. There's also a recommendation to remove the fire escape on the back of the building. I'm sure at the time that was installed, it was necessary due to the use of the space, but as it is currently used, there really is no need for that, and I can't imagine, frankly, a use that would require that fire escape, that second means of egress, just based on the size of that upper floor. So we are recommending to remove that, as it is probably more of a safety concern today that it's there than it not being there. So that's part of that recommendation as well. And with that, and we also added a accessible ramp to the facility. With that and all of the items on this list, brings that total to $197,000. Okay, I want St. Patrick and Andrew Parish. St. Patrick's is no exception. They do have a lot of the same conditions with masonry and waterproofing the foundations. We do make a recommendation that the steps be replaced at a number of locations. Not all of them, but the main entry steps are currently causing some significant damage to the church building itself, shearing off some of the concrete on both sides of the entry. And again, that has to do with the fact that they were poured without frost walls to get down below the frost line. So again, you're having that frost action work, and it's causing a great deal of damage to the building. So that, and then there's another stair that's not much left to it on the east side of the church as well. Also have a recommendation to get rid of asbestos flooring in the basement in particular. We're recommending to replace the elevator with a modern elevator, to provide a fire sprinkler system. Again, this is very similar to St. Nicholas Chapel, where you have a meeting space, a gathering space, assembly space in the basement below grade. It kicks in that requirement. Also, we're proposing to add the altar platform, again, provide access to the altar area. And with those changes and everything else listed there, again, hopefully most of that is self-explanatory. I should mention, and I'm sorry I forgot to mention this before, because I know you're probably thinking, I'm going through this so fast, how are you ever going to keep track of what I said? At the end of the presentation, we do have copies of this presentation for each of you. So please don't leave. You should have them at the table that you came in at and registered. So please don't leave without grabbing one of those. So you'll be able to look at each and every item on here, hopefully. All right, with that brings St. Patrick's Church to $442,000 to repair all of the items on that list. Oh, yeah, we could use a little music, couldn't we? I'm good with that. It's just break time. Okay, St. Patrick's Rectory. Again, the waterproofing the foundations, repairing masonry. This is very similar to what is occurring at All Saints Rectory. A fire suppression system is required due to this mixture of residential and office. So that's something that's included in our recommendation. We also, everything else on the list is fairly repetitive from the other facilities. So again, I won't go through a lot of the detail there, other than to point out that we also included the separated garage in this particular slide. You see at the bottom of the architectural there, we say to repair garage masonry, roof, doors, and windows. And if anyone has taken a close look at that garage recently, that, just so you know, it may make more sense just to knock it down and get rid of that. So that is in very, very poor condition. Again, very little left of the masonry joints. Some of the clay tile the faces have sheared off, and the roof has got holes in it where you can see daylight. So that's in need of repair or replacement if you need the space. With that and all of the other items on this list, that brings the total to $189,000 to bring that into line. And on to St. Andrew's Chapel. Again, all of the same masonry. We do have a recommendation for fixing a downspout, boot issues here and there that's causing some additional masonry damage. So things like that, we see, I mentioned a lot of the items on these lists kind of degrade. It's a small issue, but then you see it continues to create more and more problems as time goes on. So they may seem minor, but they are important. We made a recommendation to provide windows at the basement stair. The basement in this building, and I call it a basement, it's really just a mechanical room, but it is, every time we were there for a visit, it seemed like it was underwater. It was just a very, very wet, dank, dark, not dark, very dank space. And you can see the damage that's occurring on all of the materials in the area and the furnaces that are in there as well. So recommending, because right now all that they have for windows on the stair that leads down there is just some screens. And so you can imagine as it rains, it just fills the basement full of water. That's just probably one of the issues with that particular why there's so much water there. We are recommending to provide accessible toilet rooms. Again, this facility does not have any toilets inside of the building. You do have to go to the parish hall next door to use the restrooms. And we're proposing that for full accessibility and to provide those who have accessibility needs with the full dignity to be able to go to the restroom in the space, we're recommending full restrooms in there. The other issue is, again, adding an altar platform to that space. And that, with the other items on here, bring the cost to $235,000 to bring this facility into alignment with current code and requirements. Last, we have St. Andrews Hall. Again, May Street issues. We also noticed a issue with gutters and downspouts. It seems like a small matter. There's just one location on the north side of the building that doesn't have any gutters, downspouts at all. So the water just drains right onto the asphalt, and we can see there's a depression there from the water just sitting there all the time, and it can really become a real safety issue for people who are getting out of their cars, happen to park there, step right out of their car onto the ice. So whenever possible, we always try to get rid of those conditions. So we're recommending a gutter downspout and running underground sewer to that location to our just storm line to get to that and clear up that problem. Also, the building appears to have asbestos shingle roofs, roof shingles, I should say, on it. So we're proposing to remediate that asbestos and replace with standard asphalt shingles. Renovate the toilet rooms to provide accessibility. We do have toilet rooms, but they certainly do not meet the current code for accessibility. And with that and all of the other items listed on here, brings the cost to $171,000 in this particular facility. So with all of that reviewed, carefully gone through, carefully estimated, we have to offer you the total amount. When you look at it all separately, and then you look at it all together and see what our parishes are facing. So if you were to take care of all of these issues, you can see the big red number that's staring you in the face is $4.8 million. It's hard to believe, I know. I've been doing estimates for 20 years, and I still am astounded every time I do an estimate and just say it can't possibly cost that much. But the cost of doing things right, contractors, the permitting process going through the state, it really does end up being these kinds of expenses. So with that, I know we'll leave you with this wonderful warm feeling when we say it is time to take a break and let you talk to each other for a few minutes. But we are going to get back together in 10 minutes. We'll just take a little break, stretch your legs, use the restroom, get some refreshments, and then we're going to get back together, and then we're going to talk about the exciting where we go from here. So we're done with the assessment portion, but good things to come. So we'll see you back here in 10 minutes, and that will